Is Luffy Admiral level? This video was suggested by one of you guys. I welcome your suggestions. If you have any, let me know in the comments. So, is Luffy Admiral level? Well, first we have to look at several things. Let's start first with Oda's rules about fighting and power levels. One of the things that Oda does differently than the other writers when it comes to fights is that even when the fight is over and one guy wins and the other loses, in almost every fight there is no clear winner or decisive win. Since this video is about Luffy, we will focus only on him and his fights. Here are a few examples to explain why Oda doesn't like a character winning decisively against another character. First, let's talk about Luffy vs Crocodile. Luffy won this fight because he found Crocodile's weakness, which is water, and he did use it against him and won that battle. But after that fight, can we say that Luffy is stronger than Crocodile? No, because Luffy won due to that weakness and not due to him being stronger or a better fighter. So it is not how strong the character is, but how much of an impact that the weakness had on the character during the fight. And let's just say that Crocodile has found a way to counter his weakness. Then what will Luffy do now that his advantage is gone? So when we are judging the power levels, things like those do not matter that much for the bigger picture, because those are specific things that play a role only under certain circumstances. For example, Luffy cannot use the same thing when fighting other fighters because it will not benefit him. But that doesn't mean that it has no role in power levels, because that shows us that Luffy did use his brain and found a clever way to win the fight. I know it sounds weird to hear Luffy's name and brain or clever in the same sentence, but when it comes to fights, Oda writes for Luffy like a normal human and not like a parrot. Pirate King, food. Pirate King, food. Pirate King, food. Anyway, now the question is, why does Oda do that? Why not have a decisive winner like in other stories, that when a battle ends, all the questions are answered? Well, one of the reasons is that Oda likes to use a character more than once. And if a character would lose decisively to another character that has a certain power level, then when that character will fight someone that has the same power level or higher, then people will expect him to lose and they will not find the fight interesting. And that's why Oda likes to keep the power levels vague. For example, Oda made a distinction when it comes to Lord Bellamy. Luffy did finish him with only one punch. And when they were fighting again in Dressrosa, did anyone have any doubt about who will win? I think not. And maybe some of you guys got bored watching that fight because you knew how the fight will end. But if Luffy will fight Crocodile again, then this fight will be exciting, because it will not play out in the same way as it did the last time. Because I don't think Crocodile would lose with the same tactic, and also Luffy will not try to do the same things that he did in the first fight. Because now he is a lot stronger than before, now he has his gears and haki. Now let's talk about the fight against NL. Why did Luffy win this fight? The answer is simple. Luffy was lucky. Lightning doesn't work on rubber. Or, Luffy was not lucky, but this was part of Shanks' master plan and he gave Luffy the Gamu Gamu no Mi Devil Fruit because he knew that he will face NL in the future. I'm just kidding. Now let's talk about Luffy vs Doflamingo. Why did Luffy win this fight? Well, he did not fight alone. Law and the people of Dressrosa did help him to win this fight. So Luffy did win those fights, but in none of those Luffy won decisively, and that's why we cannot say that he is stronger than his opponents. Because there is no way to prove it, unless we are talking about the fight against Bellamy. Now how can we know the power level of Luffy? Well, we need to look at several things, like physical strength, endurance, stamina, Devil Fruit power, haki, attack and defense techniques, etc. Since this video is about is Luffy Admiral level, we will focus only on this level. Since Luffy is a Devil Fruit user and his fighting revolves around his Devil Fruit, then in order for Luffy to be considered an Admiral level, he needs at least to awaken his Devil Fruit. Without that, I don't see how he can hold its own against an Admiral. We saw what had happened against Kaido. It took only one punch for Luffy to be defeated. But let's just say that Luffy had awakened his Devil Fruit. Here are the things that he could have done when Kaido did attack him. Turn the ground into rubber and use it as a shield to block the attack, and at the same time use another part of the ground to attack Kaido, and while Kaido is breaking that shield and taking that attack, it will create an opening for Luffy to land one of his powerful attacks. But if Kaido is fast enough to block even that attack, Luffy will not be in danger because he will have enough time to stand back and get some distance from his opponent. And that is how he can stay in the fight and not go out before the fight even starts. In short, When fighting the Admirals or the Yonkos, Luffy cannot use himself as a shield, or the result will be the same every time. To understand better the extent of power of the Admirals, let's look at some examples. The fight between Akainu and Aokiji that took place in Punk Hazard, it did last 10 days. Both of them are high-level fighters, so the battle was intense from the beginning to the end. Based on that fight, we can assume that Akainu can cover an entire island with lava, and the same thing it is with Aokiji. Think about it. What could Luffy do if he was the one that was fighting Akainu or Aokiji? Let's just say that he started to punch the lava or the ice, and that's how he's not getting burned. But to what end? The only thing that he will achieve by doing that is getting tired and leave himself open to be finished by Akainu or Aokiji. Because punching the lava will not do any good. Akainu will not be harmed if you punch his lava attacks. But if Luffy will have his awakened power at his disposal, then he can block the attack by using his rubber. The rubber will probably get burned and melted by lava, but Luffy will not get any damage, and that's the important thing. And that is how he can stay in the fight and not go out before the fight even starts. The other example is Fujitora. He can summon meteorites like it is nothing. Let's just say that Luffy's sponge is strong enough to crush a meteor, but what about the other meteorites? It is not that Fujitora can summon only one, and the interesting part here is that how easily he does it, like it is nothing. When he did use a meteor against Law and Doflamingo, they both had a hard time dealing with it, and it was only 1/3 of the meteor for each of them. So what if Fujitora will summon 10 meteorites at the same time? So do you see why it is really hard to make a case about Luffy that he can hold his own against the Admirals without his awakened power? Another question is, when will Luffy awaken his Devil Fruit? I made the theory a while ago where I say that he already has awakened his Devil Fruit during the time skip. If you want to watch that theory, the link is in the description. Because I don't want to repeat the things that I said there in this video as well, but one thing that I would like to add is that if Luffy during the time skip did not work on awakening his Devil Fruit, then what did he do for 2 years? Rayleigh did not teach him how to use a sword, because if he did, then it would make sense spending 2 years training. In fact, 2 years are not enough to be very good with a sword if you did not train before. But they did not do that, and Rayleigh said that I only taught you the basics of Haki, and that Haki can be improved only during intense battles, so there is only one thing that they did, and that is focus on his Devil Fruit power. Luffy did come up with Gear 4 and maybe even Gear 5, but that I don't think it took him that long, since Luffy did come up with Gear 2nd and 3rd during a battle on its own. And during time skip he had Rayleigh there, one of the best fighters in the One Piece world. So I am sure that he did cover a lot more ground than he did ever before. One of the reasons why Rayleigh did suggest to Luffy to train is due to what did happen with Kizaru and the Admirals in Marineford. If Luffy did not awaken his Devil Fruit, then what could he do against the Admirals? What did change now from the time before the time skip? Another question is, if Luffy has awakened his Devil Fruit, then why he did not use it so far? Well, 2 reasons. Number 1, for story purposes, Oda did not think that it was the right time to reveal that power-up yet. I disagree with that, but this is another topic. And 2, he has already used it in a small capacity. The attack Kong Organ I think is possible due to his awakened power. Kong Organ is not like Gatling. When he uses Kong Organ, you can see the arms going back and forth. And when he uses Gatling, you see just a part of his arms, and that implies that the arms are moving very fast. But with Kong Organ, he's using his Devil Fruit power to create extra arms. But if I am wrong, and Luffy did not awake his Devil Fruit, and let's just say he will awaken during the fight against Kaido, then how effective can a power-up be that you just learned? And if Luffy will start using his awakening just like other people that had awakened their Devil Fruit for decades, then it would look bad and unrealistic, based on the rules that the One Piece world has. Now that Luffy is fighting the Yonkos and the Admirals, the fights need to be at a different level than before. Oda should not do what he did against Cracker and Katakuri. After the fights, the readers or the viewers should say, "Come on, let's watch that fight again and again and again. That was epic. Look at that attack or technique, etc." And not say stuff like, "What did happen? Why that guy lost? Why that guy won?" After the fight against Katakuri, most people were just confused, including me. I have no clue why did Katakuri fall to the ground when 90% of the fight Luffy was the one who took damage. I made a video analysis about that fight. If you want to watch that video, the link is in the description. The chapter before the fight did end was great. That chapter is one of my favorite chapters in One Piece. It was awesome to see a more equal fight between Luffy and Katakuri. Because before that chapter, Katakuri was just playing around with Luffy. It was like watching an adult beating a kid. And I was looking forward to the next chapter, but when I read the next chapter and saw Katakuri on the ground, I thought we have skipped 2 or 3 chapters and that's why Katakuri now is on the ground. But no, I was wrong. The only way how I could explain that is if Luffy somehow did manage to transfer all of his damage that he took for the most of the fight onto Katakuri and that's why he lost and Luffy won. Or Katakuri did have a heart attack and that's why he lost. Anyway, I hope that was a one-off thing and the future fights will be great. I am really looking forward to see what will Oda do when Luffy will fight the Yonkos and the Admirals. The setup is great, the structure of the story is great, the rules of the One Piece world are great. And without a doubt, Oda has all the tools and the ability to do something epic, but he has to make the right choices. Simple as that. And not sacrifice the story. Anyway, what do you guys think about what I said? Do you agree or disagree or you have something else to add? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, like and share if you like this video, subscribe for more One Piece videos, and see you in the next video.